First question, can you tell me about your son?
Sure. So Nolan is 9 years old. He is in, what grade are you in, Nolan? Third grade. Nolan's in third grade. He has two sisters. One is older and one is younger. Charlotte is 6 and Ella is 12. Obviously Nolan likes Toy Story. He loves sports. Like going to a game with him. Never wants to leave. Like basketball. I know we've been to a basketball game, we've been to all kinds of sporting games. Like not even to go get refreshments. Where he's just like, no, watch the game. So loves sports, loves singing, loves dancing, loves High School Musical. Yeah. So he's a very smart boy. He does well in his class. He's with his regular classroom, about high school. You're not in high school, but you're in third grade. About 70% of the time, and then he has more individualized instruction the rest of the time.
When did you find out that you had Down syndrome? Was it prenatal?
Nope.
No?
Yes.
It was not. He was about 2 days old. I was still in the hospital, and it was interesting. It was actually the audiologist who was doing a hearing screening on him who noticed some signs that were consistent with a Down syndrome diagnosis, and had suggested when the pediatrician came to see him that he look for those. Our regular pediatrician, I think it was one of the partners who came in the first day, thought he looked fine. Our pediatrician came in the next day and noticed the same consistencies that the audiologist had noted. And so that's whenever the pediatrician came in and told me that they had noticed these things and that they wanted to test him. So he was a couple days old. We didn't get a final diagnosis until he was about a week old, although at that point he had a number of other health complications where we were like, it wasn't a big surprise by that point. So he was in the hospital for the first few weeks after he was born.
What health issues did he have?
So he was born with, he seemed completely like a typical kid when he was first born, but then we started noticing he was vomiting right after he was born, and we went home with him, and then the first night when he was home, he was projectile vomiting, and so it turned out he had a duodenal web, which is basically a gastrointestinal blockage where anything he would take in, there's nowhere to go, so he would vomit it out, and we ended up at Children's Mercy after that, and he needed to have surgery. And mind you, this is all while we were still finding out that he had Down syndrome and everything else. And in preparation for the surgery on our brand new son, they were doing a heart screening on him because about 50% of children born with Down syndrome will have a heart defect. So in doing the heart screening, that's when we found out he had a heart defect as well. So he did, and so they wanted to take extra precautions during his GI surgery to make sure that his heart was safe during the surgery. And then everything went great during the GI surgery. They did it laparoscopically, which was really unusual. In fact, he was presented at an international conference, I think it was in Switzerland, and as a case study for how well it can go whenever it's done endoscopically, because his recovery time was so much shorter. And then we ended up waiting about a year and a half before we did the heart repair for him. They wanted him to get a little bigger and a little stronger before they went ahead and repaired that. So we had that repaired in about a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, you have strong muscles, don't you? More cats? Get your head in the game. So, it's interesting whenever you think about a child with Down syndrome, a lot of the focus is on the health issues whenever they're younger, and then as they get older, your focus kind of shifts to more educational and developmental types of, I don't want to say challenges, but, extra focus, I guess you could say.
Did he have to go, or does he go to like physical, occupational, or speech therapy?
So he gets that through the school system right now. When he was younger, like we started occupational and physical and even speech therapy when he was just a couple of months old. And so that started just very, very early on, where they would come into the house and do all kinds of therapies with him in the house. Even, just stimulating his muscles within his mouth to try to build the strength and tone, because he had such low tone, and to get him to build coordination, mostly physical therapy and speech therapy, but it was really occupational therapy as he got a little older. And so that started, almost practically at birth, and he's had it pretty much since then. Yeah.
That's great. Do you enjoy your sisters?
Yes.
You like them?
Yes.
Do they play with you a lot?
Yes.
That's good. What do you guys like to play?
Woody Buzz.
He was?
What do you
Yes.
both?
Making a little toy.
Do you fight with your sisters?
No.
No.
Really? Did you fight with Charlotte this morning?
No favorite toy.
What kind of bed do you sleep in?
You have a bunk bed? My sister has a bunk bed. Those are awesome.
It's pretty cool, huh? Do you sleep on the top bunk or the bottom bunk? Why? Because you're a big kid, right?
Yes.
And you'll be big when you go to high school. That's true.
Those are the big things.
That's right.
What was your first reaction when you found out that you had Down syndrome, along with these other complications?
The very first reaction was I was frustrated with the hospital because they kept him in the nursery, and I really wanted to see him. And because they needed to run all the tests and everything, I just really wanted to be able to hold him, and wanted to be able to see him and everything. And it seemed like forever. And being the personality type that I am, my mind instantly went to logistics and, how is this going to affect our family? How is this going to affect our lives? And, how are we going to, what's going to happen? Because we didn't have experience with children with Down syndrome and didn't really know. And it was really, there was a cardiologist at Children's Mercy who really put things into perspective with us. And if you haven't read it, or if someone hasn't told you about it, there's a wonderful story. It's called Welcome to Holland, where it's about a husband and a wife who are planning a trip to Italy. And they packed their bags, they've done all their research, they've got a bed and breakfast planned. They've been planning this trip to Italy. It's like their bucket list trip. And they finally save enough money, and they get there, and they're so excited and anxious to get there. And when the plane lands, the door opens and the pilot says, "Welcome to Holland." And it's such an incredible story, because it's like, Holland's a great place too. It's just, you were expecting Italy. So you're kind of heartbroken and devastated because you've built up Italy and that's what you really wanted. But now you have this change of where you have to now have this appreciation for what you're given, which is Holland. So it's called Welcome to Holland. So it's a great resource that a lot of people use whenever they talk about getting a difficult diagnosis like that. That seems difficult at the time, but really has a lot of positives to it as well.
How has Nolan been a blessing to you guys?
It's not even just to us; it's to almost everybody he interacts with. My husband and I are both very, I don't want to say competitive, but pretty accomplished. We went to very academically driven individuals, doing well in high school, doing well in college, went to medical school and graduate and residency. I went to graduate school to get my PhD, and we were very focused on achievement, and you don't necessarily have an appreciation for things and for the process and for achieving not just achieving the highest accomplishment, but for achieving what you're capable of achieving. And so I think that's been one of the biggest gifts that we've been giving, is to appreciate our gifts and appreciate his gifts, and then be able to translate that to everyone else around us as well, and to not just be so focused on complete academic achievement. And I think it helps us parent our other children. It helps other children around him to be able to have a better perspective on life and on caring and being humanitarian towards each other and patience. So, yes, it was amazing.
Just a little blessing.
Yep.
So Nolan, do you have any chores at home?
Yes.
What do you do?
What do you do at home? Do you help unload the dishwasher some? Yes. What else do you do? You're very good at putting things away. You're focused on this boat. You're crawling on Woody. Hey Nolan, what do you do when you finish eating your breakfast? What do you do with your plate? You put it in the sink. Yep. What about your shoes? Do you just throw them on the floor? They go in the cubby. Yep. With your toys go in their place, right? What's that?
You sometimes pick out your own clothes? You gotta pick out your own clothes and brush your hair and stuff like that, and do something together. Brush your teeth, very important.
He's very scheduled, and because so much of what he does is routine and scheduled and monitored, he's very good about putting things where they go and doing, he comes in and he follows a very specific routine, which is great. It can be a challenge whenever it gets thrown off a little bit, as it can other kids who are scheduled, but he's really good about putting things away and helping out. I wish his sisters would do that too sometimes.
Take some tips.
Yes, exactly.
So what does his daily routine look like on a usual basis?
He usually gets up, gets himself dressed. He gets himself ready. The only thing that we do to help him get ready in the morning is we usually make his breakfast. He can make his own breakfast, but we just usually make it for him. He gets on the bus. So one of his biggest accomplishments is last year. Up until last year, he rode the smaller bus that had a bus aid and would come to our house and pick him up. And then once his younger sister started in kindergarten, it was really upsetting to him that he was riding the small bus and she was riding the big kid bus with his older sister. So we worked out a plan with the school district and transportation. We put it on his development plan that we want him riding the big bus with his peers. We want him to go to the bus stop and wait with his friends and be able to hang out with them. And so we got the district and transportation and everybody behind it. And he rides the regular bus. He goes to the bus stop. He can go by himself. I go follow him. But he waits at the bus stop. He rides the bus, and he can get on and off the bus. He gets on the bus by himself. There's no aid. There's no assistance, and it's a loud, distracting place. And he rides it. He gets off the bus. He can get himself to his classroom. He puts his things away. He sits down and starts working. So, yeah, he's pretty much independent until the classroom education piece starts, and then they typically modify the work that they're doing in the class for his level so that he can be in amongst his peers as much as possible. And he goes to lunch by himself. He carries his tray. He has his lunch. He knows his lunch number. He punches it in.